Hiya rates, welcome back. We are starting on a new topic, algebra. So here's the work that I want you to copy down, so have a look at that. Please pause the video, like always, copy down the notes. Algebra chapter 5, 5A. Alrighty, let's get started. You would have done this in year 7 a little bit. So the first thing, algebra. Algebra is when we use letters to represent numbers. So letters or symbols are used to represent numbers, and we call them variables or pronumerals. So either of those two words mean it's just a letter that represents a number. So pronumerals or variables. And a couple of little things here. Simplifying, A times B. We don't write it with the times, we just write AB. It means A times B. A times A times A. When you times something by itself 3 times, it's cubed, so you write A cubed. And if you've ever got 1A or 1 of anything, you just write A. So you don't write 1A, you just write A in front, just by itself. Excellent. A few definitions first. An expression. So it says there, an expression is a combination of numbers and pronumerals combined with mathematical operations. What that means is, here we've got one term, 3x, and we've got another term, 2y. They're combined with a mathematical operation. That means like plus, minus, times or divide. So 3x plus 2y, that whole thing is called an expression. And again down here, 6 brackets, a plus 5b, close brackets, that's an expression. So the next thing it brings me on to is a term. A term is part of an expression. So things like just 5x, or minus 3ab, or even 2/3 x, or even 7, they're all terms. So they're separate terms, and if we combine some of those terms with a plus or a minus sign together, then it becomes an expression. A coefficient is a number in front of a pronumeral. So if you have a look here, we've got 5x, so the coefficient of x is 5. So sometimes I say, what's the coefficient of x? And people say it's 5x. That is not right. It's just a number. It's 5, which is out the front of it. If I said, what's the coefficient of y? See the pronumeral y? You should say minus 3. A lot of people forget the negative and they just say 3. It's minus 3. So be careful of that. If I said, what's the coefficient of xy? Because that term is xy. Then you'd say the coefficient is 4. And the tricky one, if I said, what's the coefficient of A? Sometimes people say it's 0. That is incorrect. There's 1A. There's a 1 in front of it, but you don't write the 1. So the coefficient of A is 1. Awesome. Hopefully that's all clear for you. And I've said down here, a constant is a term. So remember terms, they're single things like that. A term that's only a number. So it does not have a pronumeral or a variable in it. So if we look up here, a term here is 7. So that's a term, but it's a constant as well. Sorry, so a constant is 7. So it's just a number. So it could be minus 5 or it could be 3. Any number is a constant. Alright, a couple of little things you have to know. The word sum. Sum means plus, A plus B. That's the sum of A and B. Difference means minus or subtract. Product means times. Remember, you don't write the times in there. You just write it as AB. Quotient means divide. Be careful which way you have to divide. And square. Square is A times A is A squared, and then I just wrote the next one, A cubed, and then A to the power of 4, and so on. So you can keep on writing as many of those as you like. Excellent. Alright, let's do an example here. So we've got an expression up here. 6A minus 5B plus 2AB minus 7. So, question is, how many terms are there? The number of terms. So let's have a look. There's one term there. Minus 5b is the second term. Plus 2ab minus 7. So there are 4 terms there. Excellent. Next one says, what's the coefficient of b? So we have to look around. Where's b? There's b. The coefficient of b is not 5, it's negative 5. Be careful of that. So it's negative 5. What's the constant? What's a constant again? A constant is a term that's just a number. So we have a look up here, and the constant is here. Be careful, it's negative. So negative 7. And list the pronumerals. So what are the letters there? There's an A and a B, an AB, but so we just write A and there's B. They're the letters that we've used. Excellent. And let's move on to the last little example. These are a little bit trickier. Write an expression for each of these. So these are worded problems, and you have to be able to write them as a mathematical expression. And perhaps on a test they might give you the expression and get you to write it in words, so do the opposite as well. So let's read it. The sum of 7 and y. Sum means plus. You're adding them together. So you have to add 7 and y together. So 7 plus y. There's your answer. In this case, if you wrote y plus 7, it would be correct because they're equivalent. It doesn't matter which order you put them in. But the next one, the difference of x and y means, difference means subtract. So in this case, you'd write x minus y. But if you wrote it the other way, y minus x, it would be incorrect because they're not equivalent. So just be careful of that. The product of 3 and c. Product means times, so we have to times those two together. So you write down 3c. Some people write c3. They write c3. And technically, it's still correct. But in mathematical convention, we write the number first. So it's 3 lots of c. So please write it that way. 3c. Next one, the quotient of A and B. Quotient means divide, so just do it in that order, A divided by B. Now, these two are a little bit harder. 3 is added to half of x. So have a think about it. 3 is added to half of x. So we have to write down half of x first. Half of x, you can either write it as x over 2, or you can actually write like half x. But I'm just going to write it as x over 2. And it says 3 is added to it. So we write down here plus 3. Sometimes people write 3 and then added 2, so they write 3 plus x over 2. And in this case it's still correct, but remember if it said the difference, or it's 3 is subtracted from half of x, you'd have to write it x over 2 and then minus 3. So be careful of the order. And the last one says the sum of x and y is doubled. So you have to think about that carefully. The sum of x and y. X and y, the sum, means x plus y. And it says that whole thing is doubled. So if you double something, you times it by 2. Mistake people make is sometimes they write a 2 there, which is incorrect. That's just 2 lots of the x. So you need to put brackets around it. And that means it's doubled the whole lot of that, the sum of x and y. Excellent. That's all you have to know for the exercise 5A. So here's your work, 5A, page 291. 1 to 6, I'll let you do every second question. Start off with A's, of course. And 7 to 11, you can do all of that. Excellent, and I'll see you next time.